Hey guys, this is Eva Hutchins. I'm the Associate Dean of Enrollment Services here at CTC, and we're going to be talking to you today about the TSI assessment, some things you might know, maybe some things you don't know, and maybe clear up some questions you might have about that. So I've got with me Ellen Falkenstein. She's over the Mathematics Department here at CTC. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about the website, and then we will get going. Turn it over to you, Ellen.
Okey-doke. I'm gonna share. Let's see what I've got here. So this is our main website. You would get here if you just type www.ctcd.edu. If you want to know information about the TSI and if you want to be on the same website with us, we have a short link. And what you're going to do is still type the www.ctcd.edu, but then just put a TSI at the end. That's it. This is a launch page because we have lots of information about TSI all over the place, but this kind of puts it all together in one place. All right, Eva.
Eva, we lost your audio. I don't know if you're mute or. Yeah, it shows you're muted.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that. I don't know how that happened. So I'll start again. So y'all might be asking yourself, what is the TSI? It's the Texas Success Initiative. That's hard to say, so I'm going to say TSI from this point forward. And what that is it's a requirement by the state of Texas as a college that's funded by public funds here in the state of Texas. We do have to meet certain requirements that the state provides. And so that's one of the things that we have to do is to make sure students are ready in the areas of reading, writing, and math. So the TSI is to make sure that students are prepared to take those type of courses whenever they are starting into either an associate degree or if they are doing a level 2 certificate. So when anybody's on this, you're going to be required to either take the TSI or have a state mandated waiver or exemption that will be state approved. So we look at that as in the advising side, we look at that before you start coursework with CTC or within your first semester of CTC to make sure you've met that. So we'll go into exemptions and waivers a little bit more in depth later on, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that we're not doing this because we just want to and for, kicks and grins and things like that, but it is a state requirement that we make sure students are college ready before they start taking those classes. So we test you to see, and then those scores tell us, do you need any supplemental coursework or are you going straight into college level at the reading, writing, and math side? So that's in a nutshell what the TSI is. If there's any questions about that later on, I'd be happy to answer those. But what are some of the things that students, US students might have confusion about? And just not necessarily confusion, but just making sure you understand why it's so important. So those test scores determine if you need supplemental instruction. So supplemental instruction can come in different ways. We have different new and innovative ways where we give that to you, but typically it does come with a cost. So we want students to understand that how important this test is, that you don't just go in and sit down and answer the questions just to get through the material and answer the questions and get a score back to your, it should be something that's taken seriously. There's pre-assessment information that we're going to get into later that can connect you to materials, not to necessarily study, but just to make sure that you have a familiarity with that before you go into the test and that you kind of have an idea of the areas it's going to be asking you questions about. And so we don't want you to be surprised. We want you to know that there's an essay, that you're going to write an essay when you go and take the writing portion. We want you to know that you don't have to take them both in the same day. There's two portions to it. There's the math side. You can take that in one day. You can come back later and take what they call the ELAR, which is the English and Language Arts and Reading. And that covers the writing and reading side of it. And so you do not have to do those two things in the same day. Test fatigue is a real thing. I don't want you to have a low score just because you were, mentally tired at the end of it when you were writing the essay. So we want to get you where you should be in your classes at CTC, but if you need supplemental instruction, we have it, but if you don't, then we move forward from there. So it's very important that you take the test seriously and understand what you're getting into before you go to the testing center or sign up for, one from home, because you can do them either way. We also want you to know that it's untimed. You don't have to have any pressure for worrying about finishing with a certain time limit on the day you test. So those can help make sure that we don't misplace you into classes and make sure that we're getting you where you need to be. So that's some of the things we want to make sure. And then no matter what the score says, and basically I don't call this a test, it's an assessment, because what it's telling me more than it's telling you. It's telling me, what do I need to provide to make sure you can have a successful college career at CTC, that you can finish with your goal of completing a degree, and we can make sure you get to that goal. So I need to know, do I need to provide that supplemental instruction as an institution? Do we need to provide that for you so that you can get through the math, for example, or get through the composition? So that's what we definitely want you guys to know when we're going through this. And so we built this website out, and it's got some information. So I'm going to see if Ellen has anything to add in right now about just how the website's built out, or the video, because we want you to have this at your fingertips should you need it.
All right, so I'm gonna, Ev, I think we need you to mute. I don't know why. Yep, you good? Okay, so I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go out and come back in so that we can watch the video, and then we'll get into more details. I learned this last week. You have to push different buttons if you want to show a video than if you want to show all of the images. So I'm slowly learning. Right. All right, let me go back to the other mode. While I'm doing that, whoops, I can't talk and do it at the same time. So I take that back. Give me a minute.
That's okay. So while she's things switched up, one of the things I wanted to mention was, if you're not sure, if you've taken the TSI assessment and you're not sure what that means and what classes you should start taking, we're going to throw some email for local and non-local students, we're going to throw those email addresses into the chats. And so you could read time if you're having questions about what your scores mean. So that's academic.advising, and I misspelled that, so please correct that in my comments to you, Bruce and Mariceli. And then for non-local, you can reach out to eaglesOnCall@ctcd.edu. So if you're ever not sure, and there's information on this page as well about that, who to contact. And then if you're not sure if you have an exemption or waiver, they can also advise you on that. So thank you, Bruce, for correcting that email account. So I don't know where you were ready to go to, Ellen, but if you know, I'll let you take over.
I just want to say one thing before you did the exemptions. I wanted to reiterate what Eva was talking about. We don't ever want you to feel bad about a score on the TSI. So many things happen in your life, right? It's probably been a long time since you've had math. Maybe you went to a school that didn't have strong math program. Maybe something else was going on in your life. I say math because that's what most people need. Some people need both, but most people need help with the math. And we want you to know that that's why we're here. We have what we call co-recs, but you'll be in the college math right along with the supplemental. And we do a just-in-time teaching where we give you all of the concepts. We bring them back to the front of your brain if you've learned them before, or we teach you in the first place if you haven't had those concepts before. And we help you get through the college math and let you head on to your degree program. So please use all the information we have here. But when you get to the end of the test, know that we have lots of different resources for you, and we'll talk about them more when we get there. All right, Eva.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about exemptions and waivers here in a moment, but we did have a question come in, so I'm going to go ahead and read that and try to answer it. So one of the questions is, I was told I needed the math and reading only, but still have to take writing. I don't want to take the writing part if I don't have to. Is that possible? So one of the things the state did this year was they revamped the assessment. And so this is before January, you took 3 separate tests, reading, writing, math. Starting in January, they combined reading and writing together. So if you go test, and now that is one test and then they're together. So there will be an essay portion. But if you had something previously for writing, like an exemption for writing, maybe you brought in a college writing course from another school outside of the state of Texas. That's one of the exemptions we'll talk about here in a moment. So that could be possible, but you'll still take them together as far as the test to get in the reading. You can always reach out to your advising office to confirm that information, but that's most likely what's going on in that type of a scenario. So speaking of exemptions and waivers, what are those? So I don't know, Ellen, if you were going to go to the screen or not, but exemptions are permanent. It means you brought something in to take care of one of the requirements. As I mentioned, there's the 3 areas that it's looking for. And so one exemption could be that you're a prior service. If you, the state of Texas says if you were previously in the military and you got out with an honorable or retirement or medical discharge, that you're eligible for an exemption from taking this test. Now, your advisor will probably talk to you about it because military service, that doesn't mean you're ready for college algebra. So they may ask you, if you're comfortable in that area, ask you some questions to determine if you need the test or not. But at the end of the day, you don't have to take it as a requirement by the state, but it might be something that you do in one area or another, depending on your comfort level. A waiver is temporary, and so you might be waived if you're currently in the military, and that's because you're currently active duty, and as long as you're active duty, the state says you're eligible for that waiver as well. Sorry, I switched because I was talking to those. And so here's some examples. Sometimes you might be non-degree seeking, you might be taking classes to transfer elsewhere, or if you're not on a level 2 or associate level program and you're just on a level 1 certificate, you're considered waived from TSI while you're on that certificate. And then there's military service as mentioned. So those are some of the examples of waivers. But remember, a waiver is temporary and can change based on what happens to your college career. If you move from one degree program to the other, it may become a requirement as you move on. But some of the exemptions might be, as mentioned, the military service, also SAT or ACT scores. If you have a high enough SAT or ACT or STAR test from the past 5 years, then that would be eligible for an exemption. You might have, it's a cutoff of 480 on the SAT for reading and writing. So you might have that, but you might not have gotten the required 530 that the SAT requires. And so we might look at your SAT scores and say, you're good to go for reading and writing, but we need you to go take the TSIA for math. So things of that nature. So if you think you have anything, provide your advisor with that information, transcripts, score reports, whatever you've got. We may already have it, have them look at that if we haven't looked at it yet, and make sure you don't already have that. Because again, we want to make sure you're on the right path, but we want to make sure we do everything correctly for you. So if you think there's if you have a question, first of all, ask, and then make sure we've looked at those documents to make sure that we can't bring something in, because the test costs money as well. The TSI assessment will cost you a fee to take it. So if you already have something within the past 5 years that we can use, then wonderful, we'll use that. And so that's some of the examples of the exemptions that we have. And there's others. There's prior college transfer work from out of state or private schools, or you might have come in from another Texas institution and you've already taken care of everything previously, and we can bring that over to us. So again, if you think that you have already done this at your other college, or if you've done this while in high school by taking the SAT, ACT, or high enough STAR, then we definitely want to make sure we look at that. So definitely make sure you ask those questions.
Ready for me?
Ellen, did you have? Yes.
All right, so once you've figured out about the exemption or waiver, talk to your advisor, and you know you have to take the TSI test, we really want you to get the right mindset for going to the TSI, because it really is important as far as time and money that you place where you need to be, right? So we have here a pre-assessment activity. This is actually state mandated. When you go to take the test, they're going to ask you if you did the pre-assessment activity. That doesn't mean you have to do all of this. But what we've done for the math is we've given you some sample questions. So the math test, as you first start the math test, you have a test that is 20 questions. You start in the middle as far as hardness. So they'll give you a medium as far as hardness problem. If you get it right, then they will give you a harder problem. If you get it wrong, then they'll go backwards and give you an easier problem. They're going to cover those 4 areas. There's algebra, geometry, probability and statistics, and then kind of critical thinking. And so you don't know which problem you're going to get when. And if you need a calculator is going to pop up. So depending on the problem, you might get a 4-function calculator, which just like a dollar store calculator. If you need a graphing calculator will pop up. So you cannot bring your own calculator. You have to use the calculators that they give you. The other thing is you get a score based on the difficulty as well. So if you get, the cutoff is 950 for the new score. If you get a 947, that doesn't mean that you missed 3 problems. It just depends. The easier problems are not worth as much as the harder problems. But what you will get, which we'll talk about more in a little bit, is at the end, you'll get a printout to see which areas you still need to go back and practice if you would like to retake the test. So inside here are just different practice tests that you can do. You can, some of them will give you the answer after each problem. Some of them you have to take the whole test before you get the answers. And they'll give you an explanation of how to solve the problem as well. What you can do at that point is if you see that you're weak in certain areas, but you know you had it and it's starting to come back as you do the practice tests, you can go to Khan Academy and type it. Like, let's say you get a factoring problem. You're like, oh, I know how to factor, but I just can't remember right now. You can go into Khan Academy and just type factoring trinomials and they'll give you practice. We do also have tutors who can help you, but we need a baseline for you. So if you do all of these and you see there's some areas that you'd like some help with, we can, if you email math.express@ctcd.edu, we can get you with a tutor. Again, this is not the whole test, so there's not going to be every concept on these, but it's a good place to start. And it's a good place to start getting you used to working through the math problems also. At that point, at the end of those 20 problems, if you scored high enough, you're done. They will tell you that you're ready to go take college classes and you are good to go. If you did not, you get a second chance. The software is going to send you to what they call a diagnostic. It's 48 questions. So this is why Eva and I were talking about not necessarily taking the whole TSI in one day, because I know how people are. They're going to do the reading and writing first, and then they're going to leave the math for a second. See, I don't do that. Like a lot of people, they get a plate full of food and they eat their favorite first. Not me. I get rid of the stuff I don't like so much, especially if I'm with my mom and I have to eat my peas. And then I save my favorite. But anyway, all right. So the diagnostic is going to help us better place you than that first test. So we really want you to be able to work through all those. We don't want you to quit partway through because then we don't have a good picture of where we should place you. Oh, my brain. Also, it's scored from 1 to 6. If you get a 6 on the diagnostic, you're college ready. So you get a second chance. That hopefully will help you persevere and finish all 48 questions. I know it's a lot, but the reading and writing, we also have practice here. We also have some samples of essays because, there's lots of tricks with essays. So I've heard that, not only just use big words, but if you have paragraphs, make sure you put spaces between the paragraphs so they really know you have a couple paragraphs on there. There's all kinds of little tricks in there, but it's the same thing. There's a test, I think it's 20 questions. At that point, if you score high enough, you move on to the essay. If you don't, you go to the diagnostic. And again, there's a second chance to be college ready. And then they'll have you do the essay at that point. So because you can take your time, do that, like take a break in between, don't go right from the reading, writing and try to write an essay, clear your head, breathe a little, and then come back to that. We also have tutors for the reading and writing. I have more information about that down further of how you contact those tutors. All right. So this is kind of more, let me see where I am. This is kind of mixing up the pre-assessment and after assessment. So I'm going to go back to, let me make sure I didn't miss anything about the test. So you are going to take the test either at our testing center, you can set an appointment, or we do have virtual software that you can take the test remotely. That software is very picky though. You have to keep your eyes, on the screen, on your paper. You can't be looking at your cell phone or move over to another, like a laptop or something. You cannot bring up another screen. You can't bring up a graphing calculator or anything else. You can only use the calculators that the TSI gives you. It is all multiple choice. The other thing though, even though it's multiple choice, which I know a lot of people like multiple choice, but a lot of the problems are two-step problems. Therefore, you can't always just work backwards. I know that's tax test strategy to work backwards with the math problems, but that doesn't always work. So you definitely want to take your time reading the problem and see if it, even though you first worked the first part of the problem, go back and see what they're really asking, because you might have to do one more thing to that answer before you get the multiple choice answer. I think I'm good. Okay, so let me go back.
While you're going back, I'm just going to mention the student from earlier with the question. I'm just going to say, if you're still on the line or on the video, whatever, you mentioned you brought in English 1301, and that is the reason why that is correct, that English 1301, if you have that from transfer, only gives you the writing side, and now the test is combined, so you're doing both, but you're only paying for one instead of two. But I know you mentioned just not like taking tests. Nobody loves taking tests, so I totally get that. But go ahead and do that for us, and we can hopefully get you placed where you need to be. Hopefully that goes well for you. Just let us know what we can do after you take that test by contacting your advising office, so we can make sure you're set up and ready to go. But that is correct about the 1301 transfer for English being just good for the writing portion of this requirement. So just wanted to mention that. Go ahead, Ellen.
Thanks. All right, so the TSI is going to be $25 if you're taking all of it. I can't remember what a piece is, but I want to say 10.
And no, I think it's 15 for separate. If you're taking just, like if you just need one and you don't need the math side, for example, then you would just take, you would just do it with 15.
Awesome. And then at that point, you want to schedule with the testing center. So if you click here, we tried to have everything here for you guys, because like I said, the TSI has lots of people, lots of hands in the pot. There's Eva from advising, there's Amy Williams from admissions, we have Victor Gates from the testing center, we have Anelia Fairfield from developmental reading and writing, and me from developmental math. So there's lots going on. We wanted to have one place where you guys could link out from there. So if you click on the testing center here, then you'll get the contact information, the hours. If something's going on, you know, we sometimes have different rules as far as appointments or you know, when you can come in. So you want to look here to make sure that you have all of this down for when you show up. But you can either call here or email the testing clerk, and they will set up an appointment for you. And they also tell you down here what you need to bring. You do need ID. Again, you do not need a calculator, but you definitely need a pencil so you can do your work. Also, I know this looks a little strange, but they don't want you to bring any of your personal items. So no keys, no cell phones. Wait a minute, it says you need your photo ID.
You can bring your photo ID and take that into the test with you. Previously, before COVID, there were lockers and you could store all of that. And so right now you have to leave everything else in your vehicle. They'll give you more information as well when you set up that. They'll be very specific. This is, you know, written in website form. So they'll give you that specific information of the do's and don'ts when you set up the appointment.
Okay, awesome. All right, what happens after? So we do have a video. We showed you that one video in the beginning. When you take the test, you're going to see a video that's like that same video at the beginning, and then you'll have a video at the end. The video at the end is just helping give you the information of where you need to go from here. In the past, you got a printout, you left, and you're like, oh no, what now? So we have a lot more information for you now. You're always welcome to meet with an advisor at that point. You can please bring your scores and your the sheet of paper that explains where maybe you need to do a little more work if you're not TSI complete yet. At that point, if you are college ready, then the advisors can help you based on your degree plan, get into that first college math class, and of course your English 1301. You want to get that done right away. I know everyone likes to leave math till the end. I often have students who tell me, this is the last class I need to graduate, and that's a lot of pressure for them and a lot of pressure for me. So don't do that to me. Get the math done in the beginning, because for one thing, math, I know you don't want to hear it, but it teaches you critical thinking skills. And that's really important in all of your career. If you're going to take any science or business or computer programming classes, you're going to need some math to do that. Nursing. So please get that done. And again, get it over with. Get what you don't like over with in the beginning. English.
Absolutely. Ellen's being really like kind about everything, but, and I'm not going to be rude, but what we're talking about is that a lot of times the math, especially depending on the program you're in, if you don't do that right away, it's going to be a block to finishing everything else. So you got to make sure you do things in the right order, even if you're not necessarily required to. So your advisor can help make sure your department, your academic department that your program belongs to, they can help advise you as that as well. But that's always going to be something that we want you to do for success reasons, because it's a lot of times going to be a prerequisite to something else. And we don't want that to be a block and cause you to be any longer in getting things done. We want you to be able to get it done in a good timeline, the timeline that works for you. So that's where that's going to come from. There's another question that came in real quick, Ellen. It says, earlier it was mentioned that the TSI could be taken remotely. How would we schedule that test if using the remote option? Would we use the email that was listed under the testing center? You would let them know that you were wanting to test remotely. They'll send you the information for that. The way that works is a little bit different. You'll go ahead and pay whatever the set fee is for what you're taking. And then once you tell them that you're doing it remotely, they're going to have you fill out and pay our third party, which is Examity, who is the one administering that test remotely. So there is another additional small fee to test remotely, but you can do that. And so the first step is to still reach out to the testing center. So testing.clerk. I don't know if testing.center is correct, but testing.clerk is the email that is for appointments, and they'll help you with setting that up virtually. Or you can give them a call as well.
Awesome. The English comp is the same way, that you really want to get that done the first year, because as soon as you head to those other classes, you're going to have to write papers. So the more you've practiced in English 1301, the better off you'll be when you get to history and government and all of those other fun classes where you have to write papers. Now, if you're not college ready, no problem. Don't worry. We have free tutoring if you are really close. We call it on the bubble students. If you are like 347, or excuse me, oh my goodness, 947. That was the old test was 300. The new test is 900.
I'm laughing. It's okay.
Did we lose her?
Am I still there? Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I still do that as well. There's another question that came in, so if you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt one more time. I only needed one class, which was math, to complete my associates. We totally understand. Since I put it off so long, I've been told I now need additional classes. It could be that the degree plan has changed. You mentioned the curriculum has changed. Please reach out and talk to your advising. Make sure that you've talked with your advising office to verify, or the graduation department to verify that that is correct, that there's not anything that can be done without looking at your information. I couldn't speak to that being a hard yes or hard no. So I wouldn't be able to speak definitively on that. But that's anytime it's been more than 5 years, you are in danger of having to repeat some courses, depending on what the program is. So that could definitely be it. And that's another great reason. This is a great example for other students to to hear about is that putting things off, especially the math, will prevent you from being able to successfully complete later if it's more than a certain amount of years. It could be the curriculum's changed, the program's changed, and now you need additional classes. So hard lesson to learn sometimes, but hopefully other folks out there will take that seriously and understand how important it is to take your English and math within that first semester or first year of college if you are college ready. And then if you're not college ready, we kind of we take that control out of from your decision, and we help you design your first set of semester coursework to include the developmental courses that you may need that extra material. So we're going to be helping you and telling you, hey, you've got to start this within your first semester. So that kind of takes it away from that to where you get everything done. With the way, Ellen, I think you were about to start talking about co-recs, I'm not sure, but the co-rec options are wonderful because it helps you get the material you need and pass the college level at the same time. And those courses are amazing. I wish I'd had those available when I went to college 20 years ago. So anyway, but I'm going to let you take it away from there, Ellen.
Okay, so if you'd like to if you'd like to study and retake the TSIA, we have different options for you. If you're trying to retake the ELAR, the reading and writing, if you contact ssuccess@ctcd.edu, they will get you in touch with a tutor. We have in-person and virtual tutoring for that. That's at Academic Studio. You don't have to be a student yet in order to use this free tutoring. I forgot to tell you that earlier. If you're a student, great, but if you're not a student yet, or if you haven't enrolled yet, you can still use this tutoring. You do want to bring your sheet with you when you meet with the tutor, because they can go and look and see exactly where you were weaker. Also, the TSI has practice as well. They will give you a link on that sheet so that you can go in and study different concepts inside their software as well, or you could work with the tutor doing that. For the math tutor, you want to make an appointment at math.express@ctcd.edu. Right now, we only have virtual tutoring, but come August 23rd, everyone's going to be back, and so then we'll have in-person as well. Virtual tutoring is exactly the same. It's just like this. You sign on to Zoom, or we use Blackboard Collaborate. You can share your screen, the tutor can share their screen, we can write on the board. It's still tutoring. It's still the same. It's just that you're not in a room with that person, but you are technically, you're just in a virtual room with them. All right, now, if you don't feel comfortable working on retaking, that is no problem. We definitely have resources for you. As Eva was saying, and I said at the beginning, we have these co-requisite courses. This helps you. It used to be that you had to take 3 developmental courses and then finally get to take the college math. It would take 2 years before you could get there. That's not true anymore. Now, depending on where you score, you might have to take 1 semester of just the developmental and then jump to the co-rec, but that's okay. But most people will go right into a co-rec. So in the co-rec, like a college algebra co-rec, you are in college algebra. You are absolutely taking the college material right from the start. And we are infusing the concepts that you need to be successful in college algebra. So it's not that we hurry up and try to teach you everything in the first 3 weeks so that you can take the college algebra. That's not it at all. You'll do, like for college algebra, the first week we'll do some plotting points, we'll look at slope, we'll do a little bit of bringing that back to the front of your brain, and then we'll do some college algebra material using those tools. And then the next week we'll do exponent rules and order of operations just to get you practicing again. And then we jump to the next part of college algebra. So we have that going on in the classroom, and then we have tutors, and we have all kinds of resources. We have videos of us lecturing. It's us. It's not, some random author who wrote the book. It's us lecturing. And so if you miss class, or if you want to hear the lecture again, you can go listen to that video. We have notes. Everything that we write on the board is saved and we send it to you at the end of class. So you don't have to try to write everything down. You don't have to write all the word problems down. You can just write slide 5 because you'll be able to see what slide we're on, and you can do the work. So you get to practice with us. So there are so many resources. I wish, as Eva said, I wish I'd had those when I was in school. If you want to hear more about that, or if you want to know your best options, you can, again, right now, I would not call Math Express because we are still, the planetarium is still damaged from the flood and we are not there. So I would rather that you email math.express@ctcd.edu. Give me your name, your student ID, and then we can chit chat that way. We can still talk on the phone, but I'll be calling you from a different number. And then if you're looking for the reading and writing, you can go ahead and start with this phone number and they'll get you in touch with someone who can help you. All right. What do you think, Eva?
I think that was great information. I just want to say, I went to school 20 years ago, but other than that, I did not have the availability, and math was where I struggled. So I share that because I know that's where a lot of students are at, and I want you to know you can get through it, and you can go through it. You can persist and finish it, whether it's the reading and writing side or the math, if that's what you want to do. Ellen and I talk a lot. It's persevering, and or if you want to call it grit, to get through the material, to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work with the tutors. I'm going to work with whomever I need to work with to make sure I can be successful. You can do it if you do need those courses. And the way that Ellen is allowed to teach it now, and the way the programs are for the developmental co-recs, it's so much better than when I went through it, because I had to take it on its own. I had to take a break and then take the class, and I had forgotten everything in between the breaks. So the way it's done now, I think, is just so much more able for students to find that success more easily. And so I always tell students when I'm working with them, it's like, I wish I'd had Ellen when I was in school. She's amazing. Her department's amazing. And the way that we're allowed to do it through the state now is really good. I encourage students, you know, look around you, the people around you going through programs, you think, oh, they're already past that. They're at a higher level program. They're wherever. They may have struggled with math as well, but they still got there. You can do it as well. So that's really what I want students to know at this point is if you want to do it, you can. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some determination, that grit, but you can do it. So that's what I have.
One more thing I would like to add
Yes.
that I think would be a point for the students to know. Doing this kind of TSI assessment can be a cost saver in the sense that you find out where you are, and that way you don't waste money taking college classes that you're really not ready for. So you're throwing money down the drain taking a class that you're not going to be successful at. The TSI will put you in a class or give you an idea of what class you need to be in so you can eventually be successful, so you don't waste that money taking a class that you're really not ready for, and then so you're throwing away the time of that semester plus the money to take that class. This will help you be successful and save that money so you pass that class the first time around. And again, a big money saver. You guys expand upon that a little bit.
That is a great point, Bruce. Thank you for bringing that up. One thing, and Bruce alluded to it, is that the state of Texas requires, as a state institution, if you take the same course for the third time, which we don't want anyone to have to take a class 3 times to be successful at it. We want you to be able to be successful the first time. So taking the test seriously and doing this and getting assessed and placed in the right class is critical to that, because if you don't and you just start off taking it, say the student who maybe they were in the military and they go ahead and they take the college algebra, but they're not ready. If you attempt it twice and aren't successful, the third time you take it, if you're a state of Texas resident, you're going to pay the out-of-state tuition rate for it the third time. And that's a big jump in cost. And so whether it's out of your funds or out of, Pell or another fund, it's just not something we want you to have to be in that situation. So we want you to be able to, like Bruce said, be successful because you're in the class that you needed to be in to prepare you for that. So that's a very great point. And I don't know if you have anything else to add to that and that side of it, Ellen, but thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you, Bruce. And it works the other way, that if you maybe you pass the TSI, but you don't feel real comfortable going into college algebra, you are welcome to take a co-rec. That's not a problem. And that way, because like college algebra, they go pretty fast. If you take it standalone, it's only 2 days a week. You've got a lot that you have to do on your own. With the co-rec, you're going 4 days a week. Plus, we have a required time of about an hour a week in the lab. So you're getting a lot more of a resource. And I can tell you that we don't hear from students that they say, oh, I wish I hadn't taken this co-rec. I think I could have done the standalone. That's not what they say. And I know it sounds like I'm bragging. Sorry about that. But they'll tell us, oh, I'm so glad I had those extra resources. So that's a decision, and you can talk to an advisor about that, or you can talk to us at Math Express also.
I was going to say, definitely talk to your advisor, Math Express, about that. I will say what I have heard from students who maybe jump straight to a college level class is, wow, this was a lot. This was perhaps more than I needed on my plate at this point for different reasons and factors. But I tend to hear that. Like Ellen said, I've never heard, man, this wasn't needed. This didn't help me. You know, that kind of support that is provided in those classes is just a great resource, and students are always happy they're in them from what I see. So do we have any other questions or comments from the Facebook side of things? All right, Marisol said no, we do not.
In the WebEx as well. So.
Okay. Well, that's all that we had prepared. So if there's no other questions or anything else from your side, Ellen or Bruce.
The only thing is I would just say is just recap and just tell folks how important it is to make sure that your TSI prep, take the necessary prep examples that you showed and take advantage of those. So again, that you're ready to take the test and you don't waste your time getting a low score and having to take supplemental classes, and just get them knocked out and just make yourself as ready as possible. Any other comments or questions or any last minute words of advice?
You can do this. It's just encouragement. You can absolutely do this. Reach out if you need help. That's what we're here for. And we wish everyone all the success in the world when it comes to all of this. So you can absolutely do it.
Yep, I agree. And make sure you communicate. If you have a question, please reach out and ask us. We will be happy to answer your question or get you to the right person that can answer the question for you.
Absolutely.
Go Math.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys. Eva, Ellen, thank you guys so much. For you students who are in attendance here today, this session will be available on YouTube later. So if there's a question that you want to review or something you feel you might have missed if you came in late, you can pull it up on YouTube later today, and then you can kind of review the whole session. And if there's anything that you need to kind of review for yourself, it'll be there. So again, all the resources that Eva and Ellen mentioned, all the TSI prep on the website, and the contact information as far as academic advising and the testing center, all that will be there. So so you can use that YouTube session of this session as a review source, so to speak. So okay. So if there aren't any other comments or questions from either side, which I don't see at this point, thank you all so much for being here, and join us tomorrow for a session on the new robotics program, and that'll be tomorrow at 1:30. So if those of you who are interested in robotics, you can check us out then. And then Eva will be back to join us on August 3rd to talk about registration and advising. So if you have questions about any of the registration process or anything on the advising aspect of getting your degree plan situated, then Eva will discuss all of that for you. So again, thank you all so much for being here, and good luck to you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bruce.